Hey, welcome in. Ready to start a Wednesday edition of the Bruce Hooley Show. Band playing, so let's get it rolling. Thanks for joining. Well, Columbus City Schools may have thought that it hit on an ingenious idea to diminish the number of students in Columbus that attend charter schools. You know, the pesky kids that actually want to learn and aren't satisfied with reading and math comprehension scores that are among the lowest in the nation. But that's not going to work if Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost has his way. That is where we begin. A Wednesday edition of the Bruce Hooley Show. Glad to have you along here on 98.9 The Answer. You can always take us with you wherever you go in the iHeart, TuneIn, and Radio.com app, or you can download the Answer app and never miss a moment of any show here on The Answer. So at the previous Columbus City Schools Board of Education meeting, the discussion came up without much input from the public that it was just too doggone expensive to bus kids to charter schools. And so those kids were unfortunately going to have to find their own way to charter schools, and the money was going to have to come out of parents' pockets, even though state law in Ohio requires local school districts to bus kids to alternative schools, private schools, charter schools, when it is practical. Well, that's an easy one to get around. Columbus City Schools goes, sorry, not practical. Or if deemed impractical, then the district must reimburse the families a predetermined amount for transportation. And typically that's around $500 a kid. Well, you can imagine that $500 per kid is not going to go very far if you have to hire Uber, Lyft, or a taxi. You could do it on Coda, maybe, but then, of course, your kid might not come back to you. They might be kidnapped or something worse. Then that could happen to them. So Dave Yost has been watching this from his Attorney General's office. And yesterday, in advance of the latest Columbus Board of Education meeting, he took note of something that Columbus Board of Education member Brandon Simmons said at the previous meeting. And what Brandon Simmons said was, hey, if you guys who have your kids in charter schools, the ones that, don't understand that coming to Columbus City Schools is a wonderful experience where you're really not expected to learn anything. If you want to persist in trying to get an education, if you're that determined, and we can't afford to bus you to a charter school, well, you're welcome to come back to Columbus City Schools. You're just welcome to come back because this is a great place. And you're welcome to come back, and you're welcome to score what? Like maybe you'll be one of the 2 out of 10 kids who are proficient in math, or one of the 3 out of 10 kids who are proficient in English. I don't know those exact numbers, but I know both numbers are woefully inadequate if you're a parent who wants your kid to get an education and maybe not fall into a lot of the things that kids fall into when they don't have an education. Brandon Simmons actually suggested that in an open meeting. Hey, let's come on back to Columbus City Schools. Not an option for a lot of parents because they've seen how their kids have improved and changed and bettered themselves and hungered to learn and achieved when expectations are placed on them, when discipline is ingrained within them by charter schools that are flourishing in Columbus. I have said it before, I'll say it again. Why do you think KIPP Academy has a 2,000 student waiting list? Would there be a 2,000 student waiting list to get into KIPP Academy if Columbus City Schools was doing its job, which is educating students, not feathering the financial nest of teachers? No, there would not be. So last night, ABC6, kudos to their reporting, caught up with a Columbus mom. Her name is Crystal Green. She is one of the unfortunate few who got less than the state-mandated 30 days notice that her child was impractical to be transported to a charter school. She got about 2 weeks notice. That's what about everybody got, 2 weeks notice. Not enough time to make prudent arrangements for children to go to schools, or maybe they can't even afford it, which of course was the idea all along. But here's Crystal Green talking to Channel 6 last night about what this experience has been like for her, trying to get her child educated, which we all thought was, a great goal for a parent, but apparently not if you are a member of the Columbus Board of Education.
It's been a roller coaster because we don't know what to do. You know, they have companies to try to help us, but they're too expensive. What are we supposed to do? I mean, it's not right.
No, it isn't right. And Dave Yost took note of that. And Dave Yost, the Attorney General, wrote a letter to the Columbus Board of Education saying, I'm not going to let you get away with that. What was his motivation for doing so?
Columbus City Schools has decided not to comply with state law. You don't get to do that.
Ah, see, crazy Dave Yost doing his job. Imagine that, an elected official actually doing his job. Well, he is a Republican, so, you know, it gives him this crazy idea that he actually is a public servant and that he should take note of circumstances like Columbus City Schools is engaging in a, as Dave Yost called it, strong arm tactic to get kids to come back to Columbus City Schools. Dave Yost referring to the invitation by Brandon Simmons and the Columbus Board of Education that, hey, you know, if you can't afford to go to that charter school, you can't afford the transportation bill because the charter school doesn't charge tuition. If you can't afford that, just come on back to Columbus City Schools. Dave Yost says, nah, not falling for that one.
The solution of, well, just come back to Columbus City Schools because, you know, we're great. The parents have already made a decision that they want to avail themselves of one of the other options that Ohio law allows. And this kind of strong arm tactic will not stand.
Now, Dave Yost, like me, like many people in the state of Ohio, are under the mistaken impression, at least the Columbus Board of Education thinks it's a mistaken impression, that as parents, you should decide the educational option that is best for your child. I know it's a nutty, nutty concept that a parent would care more about a child and have a better idea of that child since they, you know, sort of know that child better than some Columbus Board of Education member, and that the parent should be the one to make the decision about where that child goes to school. Also last night at the meeting, besides hearing from Crystal Green, the parent, a student stood up. Now, these are the people that the Columbus Board of Education purports to care about, right? They're all about the students. We hear that all the time, all about the students. That's why they needed to spend, what, I guess, $4 million on buildings they plan to close over the summertime. I wonder how many students you could transport for $4 million instead of spending it on HVAC systems and windows and doors and playground equipment and cafeteria furniture in schools you plan to close. I wonder how many people. I know, why do I even ask such a question? I mean, what am I doing? Planting my feet in logic when I should be getting on board with Columbus Board of Education's line of thinking. But I'm not alone. Saturn Messina is 16 years old. She's a student at Metro Public Early College High School Charter School. According to Cole Barron's reporting in the Columbus Dispatch today, Ms. Messina stood up last night at the Board of Education meeting and said, COTA Transportation, Central Ohio Transit Authority, a bus to school, is not exactly the best option. Here's her quote, as related in the dispatch. I have lost my ability to feel safe making my way to school. I am consistently afraid to ride COTA every morning. And then she, not reaching them even with the typical Democratic code word, I don't feel safe. I mean, they're all about the safety, right? And the feelings. But she is a smart young lady, Saturn Messina, because she followed that up by saying, I am not delusional enough to think that I can change your mind. But tonight, when you go home, please look at the young women in your life and think they deserve to feel safe on the transit that they have to use, and so do I. Yeah. Something very bad is going to happen to a student who is forced to ride COTA to school when Columbus City Schools definitely has the financial means to bus these kids to school. They find innumerable ways to waste money by sending their administrators to lavish conferences across the country in beachfront hotels, by outfitting schools they intend to close with roof repairs and HVAC systems and playground equipment and all other forms of nonsense, solely so that those schools will not be put on the market. Because you know what will happen? They have to first offer them for purchase to a charter school. And the last thing Columbus City Schools wants is more charter schools, because those charter schools actually work. Oh, and by the way, that $100 million that you were told, that levy you had to pass in order for Columbus City Schools to say solvent, we have some information on the amount of money that Columbus City Schools has in the bank. And when you hear it, you will know that this is just another big lie meant to diminish and disparage and eliminate charter schools. I'll share that information with you next.
Mostly sunny, warm afternoon. A high today at 88. It'll be clear tonight, low 55. Sunshine, a hot one tomorrow, the high at 90. Clear tomorrow night, low 60. And then partly sunny, another warm day on Friday. A shower for the afternoon, the high 88. On Friday night, cloud shower and a thunderstorm, low 54. Rather cloudy, much cooler day Saturday, the high at 68. Partly sunny, terrific on Sunday. High Sunday, 71. I'm Steve Williams on 98.9 FM, The Answer.
Ad paid for by America First Tax Group. Attention. If you or your business is behind in filing your tax returns, or if you owe over $10,000 in back taxes to the IRS, please listen carefully. The IRS does not joke around and will not stop their collection efforts. If you're tired of the IRS letters, levies, liens, or wage garnishments and would like to get a fresh start, we can help. Due to the financial hardships in the country, the IRS is making it easier than ever to settle tax problems for those who owe more than $10,000. We can help settle your delinquent tax problems, end all collections, and may even reduce your back taxes significantly. Even if you can't afford to pay your back taxes, you can still get the help you need. We've helped thousands of taxpayers just like you. But you must call 800-390-6201 today to stop your tax problem from getting worse. The information is free and the help is real. Call 800-390-6201. That's 800-390-6201. Again, 800-390-6201.
Sebastian Gorka here. In light of recent events, we Americans need to have our heads on a swivel, not just with our personal security, but with the security of our most valuable financial assets. I'm talking about your home title and hard-earned equity. That's why I want to tell you about Equity Protect. They're the only company that completely stops cyber criminals from stealing your title, property, and equity. Most title lock companies only monitor your title for changes. Equity Protect completely stops these financial crimes from happening to you. If you own your home, mortgage-free, or have high equity, you need Equity Protect. Equity Protect is offering a magnificent deal for my amazing listeners. 30% off your first year. Go to equityprotect.com/Gorka and use the discount code GORKA30. Remember, once you have Equity Protect, you don't even need to check. I trust Equity Protect. You should too.
If you're a business owner and a listener to this station, you might not realize that the conservative news and talk content that you enjoy is advertiser supported. Our loyal audience loves to do business with the advertisers who make our programming possible. Now, it probably won't surprise you that there are some advertisers who avoid us because they don't like what we do here. And that's okay, because our listeners are eager to support advertisers who support our conservative programming. Join the successful companies who reach customers who care about this programming. Become a part of making a difference in the lives of people who listen and who are passionate about supporting the great family of advertisers who are part of this station. It's truly a perfect match for you and for them.
To learn how to reach our audience with your business's message and support this station, contact Carol and Cassidy at 614-318-0401 or click on the Advertise With Us banner at 989theanswer.com. That's 989theanswer.com.
Hi, I'm Paul George with Keller Williams Greater Columbus Realty, host of the Paul George Real Estate Show, broadcasting every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on 98.9 The Answer. Using over 30 years of trusted real estate agent experience in Central Ohio, I'll share invaluable insights into the ever-evolving local real estate market, provide you with current trends, and bring industry experts who will share their wisdom on the art of buying and selling homes. Join me every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. right here on 98.9 FM, The Answer.
If you are looking for new flooring, then I can give you a hand. I am visiting a home in Galena today where they have an order going in tomorrow, and I just want to go and make sure that everything is all set and we have everything positioned in the way that our installers can get in and do the job. And you know what? If you are thinking about it, then you should go to brucehooley.com and click on flooring in the upper right-hand corner of the page, because we can get the flooring in faster than a big box store, and we will save you money. And I can explain how that is when you go to brucehooley.com and click flooring and leave your information. We have another job going in on Friday. A friend of mine who has decided that before he moves into his house, rather than move everything around once he's in, wants to get it done ahead of time. We can plan for that as well. So whatever your needs are, whatever your preferences are, if you're looking for a certain type of manufacturer, we have it. We have all the major brands, and we can, again, do it faster and save you money. So check it out, brucehooley.com, flooring tab, upper right-hand corner of the page, brucehooley.com, flooring tab, upper right-hand corner of the page. So the Columbus City Schools Board of Education is trying what Attorney General Dave Yost calls a strong-arm tactic to make it more difficult for parents in the city to send their kids to charter schools. Charter schools are, of course, competition for Columbus City Schools, and Columbus City Schools' rotten test scores and discipline issues and staffing issues, just all sorts of issues, make charter schools an attractive alternative if you can get your kid in there. And then once you get your kid in there, well, you're never going to go back to Columbus City Schools, because you're going to be having your child come home with actual academic achievement. You're going to notice a big change in them. This is why charter schools are flourishing. This is why Columbus City Schools doesn't want to actually close buildings, because they are legally obligated to offer them for sale first to any aspiring charter school. And the last thing Columbus City Schools wants is more charter schools in Columbus, because their enrollment has declined precipitously since its apex in the 1970s. Now, the Columbus Board of Education is supposed to be responsive to parents, right? I mean, that is what they told you they would be able to do better if you approved a $100 million levy in the fall. And you who voted on it did approve it. And this is what you're getting. You're getting money wasted, HVAC systems, windows, doors, playground equipment, cafeteria equipment, purchased for buildings that even last year were on the chopping block. They had 20 buildings. This tells you how bloated the district is. 20 buildings that they were thinking of closing. They've pared it down to 9, and they still don't have the courage of their convictions to act on that. And now we got to call in consultants because, hey, you know, the playground equipment, the windows, doors, all that stuff. They spent a boatload on consultants to spend all that needless money. So, hey, let's find another consultant to tell us what to do with our buildings. So last night, Dave Yost communicates, the Attorney General of the State of Ohio communicates to Columbus City Schools, hey, you cannot tell these charter school students that you can no longer bus them to their charter schools. Because we know, because one of your members, Brandon Simmons, said it, that what your end game here is to get people to come back to Columbus City Schools. And if you make it expensive for parents to get their kids to school on their own, well, then they don't have any alternative. They probably can't homeschool them. So I read you a quote from a 16-year-old girl who stood up last night at the meeting and said she doesn't feel safe riding COTA to school every day because there is, quote, a constant threat of sexual violence from using public transportation. Yep. And she says, I'm not delusional enough to think I can change your mind, but when you go home, look at the young women in your life and think about how they deserve to feel safe on the transit they have to use, and I have that right too. Now, her dad told the district last week that he received notice his child was ineligible for transportation just 12 days before school started. That's a problem because state law says you have to give them 30 days notice. So they're not in compliance with the law there. Not in compliance with the law there at all. And Andy Boy, who is the CEO of United Schools Network, a network of Central Ohio charter schools that are high achieving and getting the job done for students, says some parents have had to withdraw kids from the charter schools he heads as a result of this policy from Columbus City Schools. Mission accomplished. Columbus City Schools Board of Education, your plan is working. Jennifer Griffiths is a principal at Franklinton High School, which is a charter school. She tells the Columbus Dispatch, the consternation of our families is off the chart. We have mothers, grandmothers, families in tears saying, what am I supposed to do? I work so hard to set this up for my family to make sure that this is working. Also, it's not enough that CCS Board of Education has said that some students are impractical to be bused to school. They have flat out said that some students are ineligible to be even reimbursed the $500 or so that the state law requires when a district says, I'm sorry, there just aren't enough kids to transport to this school, or you live too far away. We'll just pay you $500 to take care of your expenses, which of course doesn't begin to cover your expenses. Imagine if you have to drive your kid to school 10, 15 miles all school year. Will $500 cover the gas for that? The wear and tear on your car? No, of course not. Now, the oddity of Columbus City Schools Board of Education saying that 20 students who reside in the city of Columbus are not eligible to be transported to a charter school is that if you live in the city of Columbus, the city of Columbus schools is required to transport you to their buildings. So you're living inside the boundaries that make you eligible, yet CCS Board of Education is saying you're not eligible, which the principal at Franklinton High School says is, quote, flat out erroneous, as all of our students live within the Columbus City Schools district and our school is located in Franklinton. Now, can they really not afford this? Can the Columbus Board of Education really not afford this? Well, let's see. State Senator Andrew Brenner is chair of the Senate Education Committee. And he said to WSYX Channel 6, Columbus City Schools for far too long has chosen to not only ignore the law, but also to ignore these families. According to Brenner, this is amazing. According to Brenner, Columbus City Schools carried over $244 million in cash in 2023. And something called, and Ohio, and I've shared this with you before in the whole lie about ed choice scholarships taking money away from public schools, which is not true. As Brenner has pointed out before, Ohio invested an additional $1 billion with a B, $1 billion in K through 12 public schools in its operating budget, which prompts Andrew Brenner to tell Channel 6 there is simply no excuse for not following the law. Well, I guess the only excuse is self-preservation. That's the excuse. Columbus City Schools doesn't want to pay for these kids to be transported to charter schools because they know if they are, the parents will talk to other parents who have kids whose education they find lacking in Columbus City Schools. And that's why Columbus City Schools and Cincinnati City Schools, Cleveland, Dayton, Toledo, all the big school districts in the state of Ohio, including the fools in Upper Arlington, have joined a lawsuit filed against Ed Choice. The teachers union, the OEA, the AFT, Scott DeMauro, others in the state of Ohio have all engaged and are engaged in activities trying to reduce choices of parents regarding their children's education.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason. America's employers posted fewer job openings in July than they did the previous month. 7.7 million open jobs, down from 7.9 million in June, the fewest since January of 2021. The Ukrainian foreign minister has submitted his resignation ahead of an expected reshuffling of government leaders. Meanwhile, Russian missile and drone strikes killed at least 7 people earlier today in the Ukrainian city of Lviv. A report on a deadly London high-rise fire says decades of failures by government, regulators, and industry turned Grenfell Towers into a death trap. 72 people died in 2017. Former President Trump to hold a town hall-style event today in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Vice President Harris campaigns in New Hampshire. On Wall Street, the Dow up 70 points, the NASDAQ 10 points lower. More details, srnnews.com.
In theaters now, Reagan returns to office.
We are the greatest country in the world. We have just forgotten. You can run from a bully for so long, but after a while, you're going to have to stand up to him. I am about to start the biggest war of this century.
You told me you wanted to make a difference in this world.
What would you have me do?
I want you to fight.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Reagan. In theaters now, rated PG-13.
The new two-part documentary, Trump's Front Row Joes, is the first inside look at Trump's diehard fans.
The Front Row Joes are incredible people.
Camping out for days to be the front row at every Trump rally to support their hero.
The kind of basis for all the rallies. There's like dead fans.
Trump's Front Row Joes, from executive producer Sean Spicer.
You had to love Mr. Donald Trump.
Trump's Front Row Joes. Watch it now. Go to salemnow.com. Salem Now.
Dennis Prager here, inviting you to join me on a cruise to the Caribbean this November. I'll share fresh insights about our world today, all while soaking up a tropical Caribbean paradise with you. Call 855-565-5519 or PragerCruise.com.
Indeed.
So much so that when she was in California, you brought up some claims about Kamala Harris. I want to finish that discussion. She said she didn't favor a ban on fracking now. The reality is she was one of the strongest proponents of that ban, so much so that when she was in California, she sued the Obama administration over granting fracking permits. She didn't just favor the abolition of private health insurance. She was a co-sponsor of
PG-13.
The new two-part documentary, Trump's Front Row Joes, is the first inside look at Trump's diehard fans.
The Front Row Joes are incredible people.
Camping out for days to be the front row at every Trump rally to support their hero.
The kind of basis for all the rallies. There's like dead fans.
Trump's Front Row Joes, from executive producer Sean Spicer.
You have to love Mr. Donald Trump.
Trump's Front Row Joes. Watch it now. Go to salemnow.com. Salemnow.com.
Hi, this is Ralph Dollinger, the founder and president of Capital Ministries. I have the privilege of leading the Senate and House member Bible studies in Washington, D.C. every week. And I'm also the host of the new weekly radio program heard here on this station called Capital Ministries Weekend. I invite you to listen along every week as we discuss the crossroads between what the Bible says and political thought for today.
Listen to Capital Ministries Weekend, Sunday mornings at 7:30 on 98.9 FM The Answer.
News, opinion, action. Here, 98.9 FM The Answer, anywhere you go. With The Answer's mobile app at 98.9theanswer.com. Also on your smart speakers, TuneIn, or iHeart.
We hope you will join us on October the 22nd for the Battleground Talkers Tour. We will be at Genoa Church in Westerville Tuesday evening, October the 22nd, with some of your favorite Salem Radio Network hosts, who Mike Gallagher, Larry Elder, and Hugh Hewitt are definitely coming. So is Jack Windsor, host of the Windsor Report here every night at 5 p.m. I'm sorry, Jack. I'll be there. I'll welcome you that evening, and we will be talking politics with some distinguished political leaders and guests, and yes, even candidates. This is part of a 7-city, 6-state tour. We are looking forward to our individual stop here. Again, it occurs on October the 22nd at Genoa Church in Westerville. General admission tickets are $5. Get them at 9890answer.com. If you'd like to be part of the meet and greet VIP style ahead of time, you can get $25 off your VIP ticket by using the code Bruce25 at 9890answer.com. It is good news that 2 Columbus police officers were not seriously injured after they investigated an armed robbery in the Hilltop neighborhood. Yesterday, they were apprised of what the perpetrators looked like and what they were driving, and so they later found these guys. near East Livingston Avenue and Alum Creek Drive in southeast Columbus. They went over, tried to stop it, and detain the suspects. The suspects ignored their commands, signals to stop, and fled. They eventually crashed their car into a building in the 1100 block of Alum Creek Drive, ran away from the scene. Cops thought one of them had a gun. They also recovered a gun at the scene. And the suspects were treated by medics. They are facing felony charges of 2 officers. One of who, I don't know if they were in the same cruiser or different cruisers, but one of the cruisers also crashed into the building. They were taken to hospital for injuries they sustained during the arrest, but they were later released. So that is good news, which brings me to police crime, suspects not complying with police. I read this story from Laura Bischoff in the Dispatch this morning about juvenile crime and how to quell it. And I am, I guess, continually, not amazed, continually struck by how utterly thick in the brain people are who write nonsense like this. And it's not her fault. I mean, it's not Laura Bischoff's fault. I don't know where she stands on this issue. She's just recounting a report. She's summarizing a report that 9 months ago was undertaken by, listen to this collection of wokesters: the Cincinnati Enquirer, the Columbus Dispatch, Akron Beacon Journal, Canton Repository, and other publications in the USA Today network. So almost all leftists, if not every single one, a leftist, because, Haley B. Miller, Anna Staver, even though she no longer writes for this network, they're all avowed leftists. Amelia Robinson, the angry bobcat, childless cat lady, all of them. Epic disasters. I don't know Laura Bischoff at all, so I can't put her in that category. But this report now recommends and sending to Governor Mike DeWine. It was sent to Governor Mike DeWine on Tuesday. And DeWine is a dope, okay? DeWine is just a dope on this stuff. He has been so co-opted by the left and his insatiable desire to please everyone and to never hear a discouraging word from anyone, that he isolates himself and is not answerable to the people who have put him in virtually every office you can be elected to in the state of Ohio over his long political career. He's a lot like a Sherrod Brown, a guy who's never held a job in the private sector. I don't know if that's true of DeWine, but it's pretty doggone true because he's been a senator. He's been, I think he was a state attorney general. He's been the governor. He's been a congressman. Like, he's spent a lot of time in politics, okay? So he's lost touch with real people and how real people think. And when you lose touch with real people and how real people think, you know what else you lose touch with? Common sense. Common sense. So I'm not afraid to say that there are disappointing Republican politicians, and Mike DeWine is one of them. He exposed himself during COVID, and he has exposed himself here with what he has announced as his reaction to this report from a bunch of journalistic idiots offering their learned view of how we should quell juvenile crime in the state of Ohio. You want to know what their big idea is? Of course you do. Their big idea is that Ohio should stop sending nonviolent first-time offenders and children under the age of 14 to the state's youth prisons and give juvenile court judges more discretion on how to handle kids caught with guns. I thought we were talking about nonviolent. If you have a gun, how are you nonviolent? The Juvenile Justice Working Group offered 26 recommendations to Mike DeWine on Tuesday. They come 9 months after these woke newspapers in the state of Ohio put together this investigation that found incarcerated children face violence and neglect, while prison guards remain overwhelmed, understaffed, and in fear of their own safety. Okay, so we're going to not put kids in prison when while they are in prison, the guards guarding them do not feel safe. Does anyone think that might be a tell? The kids are in prison. The guards guarding them in prison are not safe. Is it easier to just go about your merry ways when you're in prison or go about your merry ways when you're out of prison? If you're threatening guards in prison, you probably aren't the kind of person we want on the streets because, again, I know it's a quaint notion that the chief role of government is to protect the citizenry. Yes, that is the chief role of government. But since they don't allow the guards to feel safe, then we should just let them out of prison so they can make the rest of us not feel safe. Now, the next sentence in this is stunning in its lack of awareness. Here's the quote direct from the story. 4 in 10 teens who leave the youth prisons end up returning to the youth system or entering Ohio's adult prisons. Okay, 4 in 10 who have been imprisoned in youth prisons end up returning to the youth system or entering Ohio's adult prisons. So, how many of the 10 don't end up going back to the youth prison? I think if 4 in 10 do, that would mean 6 in 10 don't. Is 6 not returning to prison better than 4 returning to prison? I would think it is. I would think that means you are more successful 60% of the time and less successful rehabilitating juvenile criminals 40% of the time. I would prefer, as one of the citizens that would prefer to be protected, to have 40% rather than 60% return. If they had said 6 in 10 return or 7 in 10 return or 8 in 10 return, then their case would be easier to make that they're not doing this right now. Yes, I know we'd all love to hear say 9 of 10 never return, but that is not where we are. Your choices are not 9 of 10 relative to 4 of 10. Your choices are 4 of 10 and 6 of 10. So DeWine is going to commit $290 million in state money. It's already been approved to close down 3 youth prisons and open up smaller facilities, 4 36-bed facilities, $290 million. Now, this is where we really get to the good part and the really clear detachment from common sense. Laura Bischoff writes, this system faces 2 enormous challenges: acute staffing shortages and powerful gangs. The Ohio Department of Youth Services does not have enough guards, teachers, or counselors to maintain security and deliver education and therapy to high-needs teens. Staff shortages lead to children being held behind locked doors, which later leads to more violence. I wonder how many counselors, guards, and teachers could you hire with the $290 million you've approved to open smaller facilities? Would anyone ask that question? Would that be a prudent question to ask? I think it would be a prudent question to ask. Maybe if you offered higher pay and better benefits, which you could do with the $290 million, then you could keep the youth prisons from becoming the places where guards feel threatened and you're not getting the results you want. Even though the results you're getting, 4 out of 10 returning, less than half, is a better result than more than half returning. Am I the only one asking these questions? Unfortunately, I am. Well, here's a couple things you can also do at 989theanswer.com. Besides buy your tickets to the October 22nd Battleground Talkers Tour, you can enter the $13,000 gas and groceries giveaway sweepstakes. Grand prize of $10,000. 4 other winners will receive between $500 and $1,000 in gas and groceries too. You can enter once each day between now and the end of September and complete optional activities to earn bonus entries and increase your chances to win. If you like winning while you're there, you might as well enter the contest to win tickets to the movie Reagan. I saw it Friday. It is very, very good, particularly if you lived through the Reagan era, or if you didn't, a way to acquaint yourself with the Reagan era. We are giving away 10 4-packs of tickets to see Reagan. Someone will win a party for 100 people in a theater locally. And we'll also give away 52 packs of tickets to see Reagan. So lots of ways to win the $13,000 gas and groceries giveaway. Tickets to Reagan, all of it at 989theanswer.com. Now, if you have one of those sharp photographic memories, you might remember a little thing called Intel announcing super big plans over on the east side of Columbus, all kinds of new jobs coming, and everybody was going to make $100,000, and it was going to change Central Ohio forever, for the better, of course. And you may remember the big ceremony out there. Governor DeWine was there, Lieutenant Governor Husted were there taking a victory lap. Didn't Biden come in for that? I think Biden came in for that. I forget, because, you know, I forget a lot when Joe Biden was alive, and I forget if he was here for that or not. I don't forget that on March the 20th of this calendar year, the Department of Commerce of the United States of America announced that Intel Corporation would receive $8.5 billion in direct funding from the CHIPS and Science Act and an additional $11 billion in loans. Remember all that? Remember, maybe you got hung up in traffic with the big super loads coming into Central Ohio on the weekends. And you got behind them and they're creeping along at a snail's pace. And you're like, well, in the long run, this will be great because Intel will be great for Central Ohio. Well, here is the latest intel on Intel. You may have heard in recent weeks that Intel announced it would lay off 15% of its global workforce, suspend its stock dividend program, and that it reported quarterly, not annual, quarterly losses of $1.6 billion. That was just 2 months ago in its mid-year earnings report. None of those are signs of a healthy company, by the way, if you were wondering. And you might have noticed that its stock has plummeted from $50 a share to $19 a share, prompting the stock market watching site Investopedia to report earlier this week that Intel was in danger of being delisted from the Dow Jones Industrial Average. In other words, the company is hurting so bad that it shouldn't be part of the Dow anymore. It's been there for 25 years. And now the question is, will Intel in Central Ohio ever happen? The portion of the company is called Ohio One in all of Intel's various corporate offerings. It's linked with a German plant that is supposed to do exactly what the Ohio plant is supposed to do, which is make the high-end chips that are made only in Taiwan that we're afraid Xi Jinping is going to steal away from us, which, you know, if Kamala Harris is elected president, you can write that down as a certainty. So the thought is now that the head of Intel may spin off the Ohio fabricating plant and sell it to someone else, maybe to a Taiwanese chips manufacturing entity. After all, they've proven that they know what they're doing. There are a lot of reports out there about this, and none of them are good. Bloomberg says that they're even considering pumping the brakes on expanding Intel at all, which would mean you'd have like the world's largest outdoor concrete basketball court over there where the Intel site is going to be, because the engineering on this, the amount of money that has been already sunk into this. I think a buddy of mine who was involved in luring Intel here gave me some astronomical number of how far down they had to dig because of the weight of the plant and the weight of the machines that print out, to stamp out these chips. They had to dig down like and fill up a hole with like 100 feet of concrete. That's not cheap. So this is something that now people are actually having to consider. It seemed unlikely when Intel first said, you know, that plan we had to be up and running by February of 2025, make it sometime between 2027 and 2028. Now, you will recall they delayed the groundbreaking on the thing because they didn't have the money from the CHIPS Act. It was promised, but it hadn't been delivered. Well, now they have the money and they're still struggling. What happens if this thing goes all the way under? What happens would this not be the biggest fail of government-induced corporate welfare ever? This would be bigger than Solyndra. This would be bigger than any EV nonsense. And those are big and those hurt. But the amount of money that has already been sunk into Intel, and people say, oh, wait, no. The state of Ohio thought of this. The state of Ohio stipulated that there would be what they call clawbacks. In other words, we gave you all this money in order to build this here in Ohio. And if you don't build it here in Ohio, then we're going to get all our money back. Okay, sounds great in theory, right? Sounds great in theory. Hey, don't worry, we're going to get all our money back. Has anyone heard the phrase, you can't get blood out of a turnip? How are you going to get the hundreds of millions, in fact, billions of dollars committed to Intel if Intel is not worth the money that it was worth when these loans and giveaways were made? How can you get a company to pay back the amount of money it has been given when the company is not worth the amount of money that it would owe under those clawbacks? Maybe there's a way. I'm not, not a financial expert, but I just don't see how that's possible. In this story from WCMH Channel 4, it says the Ohio Department of Development's agreement with Intel included $600 million in grants for Intel to build 2 manufacturing facilities and have them operational with 3,000 employees by the end of 2028. The parties agreed Ohio could stop payments to Intel and get back what it already gave if the company did not hold up its end of the bargain. You think it's going to have 3,000 employees working over there by 2028? I'm skeptical. And Ohio also gave Intel $691 million earmarked for infrastructure investment, like a new water reclamation facility for the new Albany plant. If you live out there and you have been, to say the least, inconvenienced by the mammoth construction going on, if you sold because the area where you once bought land and built your home and raised your family had ceased to become that kind of place, or certainly was trending toward ceasing to become that kind of place, I feel nothing but empathy for you. I cannot imagine how, well, yes, I can. I was going to say I cannot imagine how government officials could be so hoodwinked with just the name Intel, star power, the fact that it had been part of the Dow for a quarter century, the fact that it built chips, and hey, you know, we got to have chips. We got to have chips for this and chips for that and chips for everything else. We got to have chips, and Intel's great at it. And nobody looked behind the curtain. Nobody looked at the financials. Nobody looked at the technology. Nobody looked at whether or not they could actually do what they promised they could do with the money the government would give them. Because right now, this looks like a volcano about to erupt. And it's not going to be good. If all this money vanishes, if none of these jobs manifest, wow.
Attention, if you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out hard-stopping letters, aggressively garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on.
What a colossal mess. What an absolute colossal mess. Well, I've enjoyed being with you guys today. Appreciate you guys watching. And I hope you have a great day. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Hope God blesses you today. And hope you're safe. Hope your kids are safe. And hope life is going well for you. Take care.